Casuals were grinding it out, talking sports without the doubt. No need for rules, no golden binder. This is Sports Ball Grinder. This is Sports Ball Grinder. This is Sports Ball Grinder.
Welcome into the Sports Ball Grinder. Good to be back with all of you. Hope you're having a great day wherever you are, as we are headlong into the spring now, mid-April. The weather's getting warmer. Still get few cold snaps, a little bit of rain out there, but for the most part, the days are getting longer. Summer will be here before we know it. Hey, wherever you're listening to the show, appreciate you doing that. Go ahead and hit a like, hit a subscribe, and share the show as well, as it helps other people find us out there in the world. So lots to get into today, and I'm not going to bury the lead. So let's just talk about the Nico Iamaleava situation with the University of Tennessee and college athletics, NIL, all of that stuff. In case you hadn't heard, real quick, Tennessee's returning starting quarterback held out of spring practice for a few days, leading into what was going to be their spring scrimmage, because he wanted a better deal. He was allegedly in a contract situation of about $2 million and change a year, and he wanted to go up with it. He took a look around the league, took a look around at that team and what was coming back, and said, hey, I think I'm worth a little bit more, so let's make it work. And Tennessee said, no, we're not doing that, and we're not doing negotiations like this. And they decided to part ways. Now, I'm softening a lot of it. You may say, gosh, that wasn't what I read on Twitter. No, that's probably not what you read. That's probably closer to how it went down. Everyone involved from both parties have been nothing but cordial in the press since. But that doesn't get headlines. That doesn't get clicks. But the point being is, a player in a high-profile position at a high-profile program in a high-profile conference in a time when there are no regulations on how compensation is determined nor negotiated, try to negotiate a better deal. And maybe you don't like the timing of it, but that's the game right now. So credit to him and his camp for taking a look around and going, hey, we think we're worth a little bit more. Let's roll the dice and see if we can get it. And we got to be willing to make a stand on it, though. So we got to be willing to sit. They took that chance. Okay. And then Tennessee, credit to them for going, no, that's not how we're going to operate. I don't think they did that on their own, by the way, but we'll come to that in a minute. But no shade either way. They both stood on their own business. And now they'll move forward, and we'll see what happens, because as of this recording, the spring portal window for transfers is opening up in a couple days. So, yeah, if you didn't know that was happening again, it's happening again. College football fans, get to know your roster starting in around August, because that's when it'll more or less be set. So what does this mean? Well, I don't want to get too far into the hyperbole of, the changing landscape of college sports and, we need this, we need that, because I don't think we're interested in any of that, and I think most of the time that's just annoying people anyway, and we're not going to be the ones that decide it, so just wait and see. But here's what it means in the now. You can't cast blame on either of these parties for the way that this worked out. And let me explain. You can think, hey, maybe the timing of this wasn't great, but when is it ever a good time to negotiate a new contract or negotiate a job change? I mean, most of us have been through a job change at one time or another. It's hard to leave a place, especially when you've invested any amount of time in it. It's hard to let go of it. But when the better opportunity comes, or moreover, a better opportunity for you comes along, you take a deep breath and go, I got to move on. And in my experience, 99% of the time, that's going to be met with a lot of respect. Okay, thanks for letting us know. It's been great. Let's move on. It's going to be really anti-dramatic. You're not going to get a lot of crying and begging. And if you wanted that and got that out of it, good luck. It probably isn't going to last longer anyway. Because things built on high tension and emotion rarely do. When you boil it down, you got to balance emotion with a little bit of logic. And let's look at the logic of this situation. The most important position on the field is quarterback. Now, that doesn't mean the other positions don't have value, because they certainly do. Think of it as infrastructure versus economic drivers, if you want to think about it like a city does, or a business alliance or something like that. You have the industry that is pushing forward. It's bringing other people in because of the nature of the work they do. So years ago in the South, all these automotive plants started popping up from these Japanese and Korean automakers because there were great deals to be had in the land, there were great tax breaks to be had, and there was a ready and available workforce for it, because manufacturing has largely left this country, as we know. And so from the industry standpoint, like, hey, we're going to bring this in. We think we can get a pretty good deal here, build a plant. We can start building Toyotas and Hondas and Mercedes and all these things. And then from the state's point of view, hey, we're going to give those concessions. We're going to make that work, because we think and we know when you bring that plant in, it's not just that plant. It's all the other stuff that it affects. There's not going to be a transportation end to that. There's going to be a lot of growth in terms of new people moving to the area. So we're going to build our housing up. Our schools are going to improve because there's a bigger tax base for that. And now we can improve those things, and we can build our roads out a little bit better. And we're going to have these ancillary businesses that pop up, metal stamping and paint driven and all this kind of stuff, because that key element was there. And a great quarterback is an easy sell in a market of players you are selling to. Whether you're selling the traditional scholarship, come get an education, come play for Old State U, or hey, we've got some money, here's what we think you're worth, come be a part of our team. It's a great driver to get good offensive linemen, to get good specialty players, running backs, wide receivers. And then on the other side, also it affects the defense to go, hey, we're going to score points. All you got to do is hold people to this and this. Come be a part of this team that's going to get a lot of headlines, because those are going to bleed down to you. It makes a good selling point. So when you have one of those things, when you have one of those players, like a Nico Iamaleava, you leverage it. And Tennessee was certainly doing that and getting a good bit from it. They were going to return about 60% of their offense from last year and about 70% of their defense on a team that won 10 games and made the playoffs. Now you can say, oh, they didn't beat anybody any good. This guy's mid. He didn't beat anybody good. Miss me with that. They won games. They got into the tournament. That's the goal right now in college football. Win games, get in the tournament. You get there, see what happens. Get on a right hot run. You could be winning rings and posting stupid stuff on social media about the greatest run ever. Looking at you, Ohio State. Great run, but greatest ever? I beg to differ. Anyway, back to the subject at hand. So when you are the high-profile position and the player in that market, you can demand things that other people can't. And you shouldn't feel bad about that. When you're the star employee at work and you're the reason the company is growing, and your team is the reason the company is growing because of the innovations you're laying out, guess what? You can negotiate a little bit better. And it does attract other people who want to be a part of successful organizations like that. No one wants to go to work for a place that's going nowhere or going down. Everybody's looking to upgrade. Nico and his camp were looking to upgrade their deal. He'd already redshirted a year. He had a year of starting. He was about to go into another year of starting where all that experience that he had gained, all that, now that everybody wants to be a stat genius and talk about, well, in big games, he didn't do this and he missed this many throws and this statistic says this. He had experience starting in one of the biggest leagues in college football against one of the toughest schedules you're ever going to play in the SEC. That matters, and that would have paid dividends this year. Because he also took a look around the league and said, who's the other star quarterback in this league now? DJ Lagway from Florida? Maybe. Coming off some injury. Lenore Sellers from South Carolina? Maybe. Georgia's, oh, wait a minute, Carson Beck's not there anymore. That's right. I knew that, but people may have forgotten. He's not there, so that's a different situation. Alabama's got to figure out their quarterback situation. Jackson Dart's out of Ole Miss. They got to go to the new quarterback situation. There's a lot of new quarterbacks in the league. Now, Arch Manning's coming up at Texas. That's the big name. There's no doubt that is the brand standard in the league. But he's in Texas. We're on the other side. And I know we don't do divisions in the SEC anymore in football, but we kind of do. We'll worry about Arch later. That's its own animal. I got to look at what I can control if I'm Nico's camp. And I get it. And they said, hey, at worst, we're the second best quarterback returning next year. And, hey, by the way, we have more experience than the other guy. So for right now, we are the most experienced quarterback coming back. We're the brand. We're the standard. Let's go and get it. Now to the other side, to Tennessee's credit, they know, hey, we got to have one of these. We got to have one of these players. They invested a lot in that guy to get him there. They were one of the original name, image, and likeness cases that was won to get him there. They had built a lot around him and were willing to go to a point. And then they said, okay, we've now drawn a line in the sand. We're not going to do business this way. And I don't know that it saved college football or anything like that, but I think what Josh Heupel said in his press conference rings true, the head coach of Tennessee. In the end, there's no one player bigger than the program, and that includes me. Because he knows, hey, my coaches can bounce whenever they want. I could bounce whenever I want. The difference is we have contracts and there's a buyout situation, and there's somewhat protection on both sides of that agreement. But I know just as well if I go 10-2 again next year, I'll get another raise, an extension. But if I go 6-6, I'm going into the next year coaching for my job. That's the nature of the beast. It's what we've built. And people say, oh, it's an easy fix. We just got to get collective bargaining for the players, and then we got contracts, and there's buyouts, and we're a long way from any of those things. A very long way from any of those things. Let me say we're a lot of billable hours from any of those things. And let's be honest, as the kind of sports fans we are, that's not really that interesting. Oh, it's interesting in the NFL because the NFL's turned that into a sport. They've turned the offseason into a sport. It's a way to extend their brand. Professional sports do that. But there is a point when that starts to rub people the wrong way too. And college football doesn't want to play in that sandbox yet. Because they're still graduating out of the era of, oh, come play for the jersey, come play for Old State U. And there's still a few guys on your team that are going to do that. Some of your infrastructure guys, like we were talking about earlier. There's going to be a few that do that. But the high-profile ones, the ones that are going to move you forward, the ones that are going to grow your brand, grow your city, grow your program, are not the ones that are necessarily just there for the brand on the jersey. They're there to leverage what that can do for them. And if you want to try to get that many of them in one room to collectively agree on anything, we're a long way from any of that. And even if we got there, it's still all challengeable. So I don't know what the answer is, but I do know spring college football is going to be interesting to see where these parties land out. Because if you think for a minute Tennessee's just sitting on what they've got, no. They'll be actively shopping in the spring portal, and there will be high-profile teams that make offers to Nico Iamaleava and his camp to get him to come and play football for them. High-profile teams in big places. He will get another shot. And maybe another after that. Never know. But we haven't seen the last of them. So all of this brings us back to we're exactly where we started. We're just changing jerseys now. So don't get lost in all the sauce of, oh, this is this groundbreaking moment in college football. No, it was inevitable that this was going to happen at some point. I made the joke myself this weekend that I'm waiting for a team to hold out before a game. Think it can't happen? think again. It definitely could. We're a long way away from solving all these problems, all right, or solving these issues. Just get on for the ride and see what comes out. It's going to be entertaining, that's for sure. Speaking of entertaining, hats off to Royal McIlroy. Great run to that Grand Slam, winning the Masters. I'm not a big golf guy. Don't watch a lot of golf, to be honest with you. But I did tune in for some of that because it was a great run. And it was neat to watch someone go into a tournament like that clearly focused on winning it and playing some incredible holes to do it. So a lot of fun to do that. If you're into golf, and it seems to be a big spring pastime for a lot of folks, hey, you had a good time with that. Kyle Larson, what a heater out of Bristol. Won the Xfinity race, won all 3 stages of the race on Sunday. He's now up to 4th in the points, having an incredible year. And, one of the few with multiple wins on the year. Christopher Bell got those 3 early. Not since. Denny Hamlin and him have got 2. William Byron's got the big one. And as we know how he got that one in Daytona, NASCAR is setting up to be a lot of fun coming down the old stretch here. So could be some good times coming in the motorsports. And then, it's time for the WNBA draft is going to happen. Paige Beckers from UConn expected to be a top pick. Be some other great picks in there. Be interesting to see how that works out. We'll get into the season. And the NBA postseason is right around the corner. Eastern Conference already set. All right, we already know all of the matchups. All right, you've got Cleveland taking on some combo of the Magic, Hawks, Bulls, and Heat. And you've got the 9-10, the play-in games, as it were. They'll go in there. The Celtics will play either the Magic or the Hawks. The Knicks and the Pistons are going to play, and the Pacers and the Bucks are going to play. In the West, we're still figuring out how the seeding is going to work out, but we know for sure Oklahoma City and Houston and LA are locked up. And then it's some combo of Denver, the Clippers, the T-Wolves, the Warriors, the Grizzlies, the Kings, and the Mavericks. Yeah, the Dallas Mavericks are still going to make the playoffs. It would be funny to see them matched with the Lakers again. We saw how that went down last week. Probably won't happen, at least not in that early round. But NBA playoff brackets coming up. Could be a lot of fun if you're like me, and this is really when you start to tune in and pay attention to the NBA. Get ready for a lot of offense. That's what I'm going to say. That's what the league's all about these days. So could be fun. Playoffs beginning April 19th. And then the draft comes up in May, and then the finals begin in June. So it's wild that the draft lottery happens right there in the middle of all this stuff. But it could be fun, The draft's actually at the end of June, but the announcements of when the picks will lay out come in the middle of the playoffs. So NBA is a different calendar. Lots of fun to be had out there in the sports land. As always, we're going to try to keep you on top of it here at the Sports Ball Grinder. So keep following us on Facebook at Sports Ball Grinder. Look for the show wherever you find your podcast, and we'll be back to talk soon. And, hey, we're almost to the NFL draft, too. Haven't forgotten about that. Big draft preview show coming up next week for sure. Be back later this week to talk some more headlines, talk a little bit about how those picks went down in the WNBA, and if there's any more news of note, we'll cover it right here. Talk to you soon. Stay in the grind.